Greetings. You're watching breaking news on the Creative Society channel.
Watch in this episode. A powerful earthquake of magnitude 6.5 occurred in northern Peru on February 3, 2022. Shocks were also felt by residents of neighboring Ecuador. Earlier, on January 31st, Ecuador was also hit by the strongest downpours in the last 20 years. According to meteorologists, the amount of rainfall exceeded the forecast almost 40 times. As a result, rivers overflowed in several areas of the country, affecting hundreds of homes and roads. Dozens of people were injured and, unfortunately, there were dozens of casualties. In Ecuador's capital, Quito, unprecedented rainfalls equivalent of 75 liters per square meter caused a massive mudslide. A mudslide about 3 meters high literally swallowed residential homes and cars. The topic of heavy rainfall in Ecuador, Brazil and the US will be continued by the Breaking News reporter.
Hello, this is the Ecuadorian Breaking News reporter. On January 28, a state of emergency was declared in Ecuador due to heavy rains in the provinces of Guayas, Cotopaxi, El Oro, and Los Rios. In the capital of Ecuador, Quito, as a result of large-scale flooding, people died. A record level of rainfall was registered in the city. Several roads and coastal houses were destroyed. On January 27, a storm struck Brazil, the city of Sao Paulo. The next day, strong winds brought heavy rains that caused floods and landslides. Unfortunately, dozens of casualties have been reported. There are injured and missing people. About 500,000 families in 11 cities were left homeless. The flooding of rivers flooded settlements and paralyzed life in the cities. Water levels in some areas rose by more than 1 meter. Roads and cars were flooded. The rains also delayed harvesting and halted mining activities. Areas in the southeastern part of the country were the most affected. On January 29, 2022, the east coast of the United States was hit by the worst snowstorms in 4 years. The Bureau of Meteorology reported the onset of what is known as an explosive cyclone, when there is a sharp drop in pressure that is accompanied by strong winds and heavy precipitation. Unfortunately, the storm claimed several lives. More than 16 million people in the states of New York, New Jersey, Maryland, Rhode Island and Virginia received a state of emergency warning. In many places, daily records of the amount of snowfall were broken. For example, up to 61 centimeters of snow fell in New York and Boston in one day, and 75 centimeters were reported in parts of Massachusetts. Storm surge flooding was reported in coastal areas. More than 120,000 people were left without power throughout the northeast coast. Rail and air service was interrupted. More than 10 million people were stranded in airports.
On January 30th, 2022, a landslide occurred in the Brazilian state of Sao Paulo in Franco da Rocha. Unfortunately, casualties have been reported. For more than 2 months, people in Brazil have been suffering from massive floods and landslides in different states of the country. An eyewitness to the flooding in December, journalist Caio Oliveira, will talk about how it affected his family.
My name is Sao Oliveira, and I'm a Brazilian journalist. I live in the state of Bahia, which has been hit hardest by the floods. Some members of my family started sending videos and photos of what was going on. And what happened here has never happened in all of history. Even the governor of Bahia state said in a press conference that he had never seen anything like what is happening here in the state. Based on statistical information, more than 150 cities were affected. Even worse, because of torrential rains and flooding, several dams have burst in this region, and water from dams has flooded some municipalities and cities. What happened on Christmas Eve directly affected my family. It was a sad moment because we got a picture from my town at my family's request. Water invaded my uncle's electronics store and filled the supermarket. It flooded my aunt's little school and almost flooded my grandmother's house. And at the same time I was supporting my family, I realized that something not normal was going on. I started doing journalistic reporting on what was happening in the country. We are still rebuilding everything ourselves here in Bahia state and other sectors because of the inaction of the Bolsonaro government. We are getting help from neighboring areas, including from other countries. The area was isolated because the roads and bridges were destroyed. There were a lot of landslides because of the rains. The strength of the solidarity of the people of Bahia state united and organized people in several municipalities, and that's why we had such incredible cases. Although more than 70 cities were completely flooded, almost 100% of the city was underwater, and other cities had damage. That's to say briefly. Nearly 7,100 people were affected. This is the largest climate tragedy in the history of Bahia state, one of the largest in the country.
Hello, I'm Cesar Jaramillo, an eyewitness of an electrical storm that occurred in Colombia, in Palmira, Valle del Cauca. I report that on the night of January 24 to January 25, there was storm as if out of nowhere. It started as something small and generated a big electrical storm. Thank goodness there was no damage. Another proof that weather can get out of control anywhere and anytime. Thank you.
On January 26, 28, 2022, snowfall occurred in several provinces of Morocco. Snow levels ranged from 10 to 40 centimeters. This extremely rare phenomenon in this area was witnessed in particular by residents of Tinidad in the southeast of the country. On February 1st, a dust storm in Gafsa, Tunisia and Bir El Ather, Algeria, turned day into night in a matter of minutes. Next, Nelson Nardino, an eyewitness of the cyclone Anna, will tell about the plight of people in the aftermath of the disaster in Mozambique.
My name is Nordino Antonio Alson. I'm from Mozambique. I'm here just to express my feeling regarding to Anna cyclone that it killed many people, many Mozambicans. We had information from the government. The government wants us that it should be happening something like this, or it should be, we will be having a disaster like this. The cyclone is not the first time coming in Mozambique or affecting us, but this is the most dangerous that we faced. It was a moment that rained a lot, and some hospitals were destroyed, and some houses too. This situation of this cyclone and a cyclone in Zambezia, we are not able to travel to Zambezia because of the bridge of Mukuba has been damaged. We helped each other when it was happening. That's what I had to say regarding to this cyclone that affected in our country. Just to highlight that many people now are crying, are complaining because they don't have houses, they don't have their belongings, they miss their belongings.
If you have witnessed a climate anomaly, please send your video footage to climate@creativesociety.com.
On January 28, 2022, one of the world's most attractive volcanoes, Sakurajima, erupted in Japan. It threw large clouds of smoke and ash over the Kyushu island. Sakurajima is a very dangerous volcano because of its explosive potential. Watch next more on the storm in Malaysia.
At the end of January 2022, a powerful storm hit parts of Malaysia. It brought strong winds and rain. The streets were in chaos. Debris mixed with various objects flew around the area. The wind blew the roofs off dozens of houses, damaged buildings and dozens of cars, and uprooted trees. Power lines were damaged. In the town of Serikimbangan, Selangor, several cars collapsed into a sewage drain during a landslide. This was a shock to witnesses of the event. Heavy rain caused the sewer to burst, which weakened the foundation of the parking lot. There was a tornado in the town of Ipoh. House roofs and store signs were torn off. Several trees were uprooted. Fortunately, no injuries were reported.
At the end of January, several frosts in Romania caused an unusual natural phenomenon. A thermal waterfall near Toplica froze for the first time in several years. Watch the next report on other natural disasters in Europe.
Hello, this is a breaking news reporter. At the end of January 2022, the devastating storm Malik swept across Europe, disrupting normal life in several countries at once. Unfortunately, few casualties have been reported. In coastal cities in Germany, the storm called Nadia caused severe flooding. In Hamburg, the overflowing Elbe River flooded the historic center, leaving hundreds of cars underwater. In Berlin, the state of emergency was declared due to hurricane-force winds. A dry cargo ship was knocked off its anchor off the coast of the Netherlands by a storm that swelled to 7 meters. People had to be evacuated by helicopters. Wind speed in Scotland reached 160 kilometers per hour. According to locals, they had never seen this level of destruction. In forested areas, trees were just flattened and broken like matches. Many homes, cars and boats were damaged in Norway. The storm also passed through the Czech Republic, Poland, Estonia, Finland, Sweden and Denmark.
In late January, a low-pressure system brought unprecedented rainfall in parts of Australia. Some parts of Western Australia's Kimberley County received an unprecedented amount of rainfall in the last 120 years. Vital roads and railroad tracks were cut off, causing food shortages. The military was called in to deliver food and supplies. For more information about heavy rains and their consequences in other countries, watch next.
On January 31st, 2022, a cold front brought heavy rains and strong winds to Haiti. 36 hours of incessant downpours caused rivers to overflow. At least 20 municipalities in the departments of North, northeast, and Nips were affected by the weather. There were deaths and missing persons. A total of more than 2,500 homes were flooded and destroyed. Fleeing the storm, people have moved into temporary shelters. According to the Haitian Civil Protection Authority, those left destitute are in dire need of water, food, and blankets. One of the bridges collapsed, leaving some communities isolated. In neighboring Dominican Republic, flooding occurred in the provinces of Puerto Plata, Santiago, La Vega, Valverde, and Monte Cristi. Nearly 3,500 homes were flooded, and about 2,000 people had to be rescued and evacuated from the flooded area. A man was killed by a fallen tree in the blustery wind. Heavy rains occurred in 3 districts of Krasnodar region of the Russian Federation on February 2nd. An emergency situation was declared due to waterlogging. The most affected district was Slaviansky, where more than 700 yards were flooded. More than 270 houses were flooded. In total, over 1,000 adjoining territories and more than 350 households were flooded. Dozens of road sections were underwater.
From January 28th till February 3rd, 2022, there occurred landslides and mudslides, floods and fires, tornadoes, storms and hurricanes, temperature records and snowfalls, as well as earthquakes and volcanic eruptions around the world.
The true cause of these natural disasters is astronomical cyclicity. Any attempt to influence the climate without taking this into account is futile and only wastes time and energy, which are so necessary for the survival of all humanity today.
Yes, by the way, you spoke about energy. Indeed, a lot of scientists, at least those who work in the field of weather management, say that they basically come across 2 major problems. The first is that climate, those very hurricanes, do not notice their measures, no matter what scientists do. And the second is whether it is actually worth spending so much energy they now have on those kinds of measures.
This is nonsense.
Therefore, it's really a completely different kind of energy.
Nowadays, they mainly use chemicals to affect this. They can stop rain.
Yes.
Or help accumulate and concentrate moisture, and then it will rain. This is very expensive and very stupid, but if we take a storm and humanity interferes in a storm and stops it, then there are certain laws. Guys, the energy that is generated begins to be redistributed chaotically. So this chaos will cause dozens of times more harm than that very hurricane can do today. Subsequently, hurricanes will be more severe and there will be more problems. And then again, we will not even be able to affect them if we do not do what is necessary for survival.
It is obvious that all that humanity is doing now in the confrontation with our common enemy, the climate, is absolutely ineffective. What will happen when this undeclared war reaches its climax?
It may appear to be frightening reality that such terrible events are taking place and we can't do anything about it. But we are here to discuss the solution, which we're discussing right now, because there is still a way out.
The consumerist format that humanity is currently following and supporting is, generally speaking, dying out. In order to solve common global problems, it is imperative to change the very approach to solving these problems and the very concept of how we live in general.
We need a creative society. In the consumerist format, we will never agree on anything. The only way to get beyond these rules is to completely change the outdated model of our existence, which does not fit into today's reality. If we don't replace this model, then they will tighten totalitarianism and the climate is going to change. And as a consequence, the economy and geopolitical relations will worsen catastrophically. The fact is that in any case, they will take the necessary steps to keep the consumerist model, not because they are evil, but because they don't know otherwise. That's the problem. It's because they don't know the other alternative. They don't know about the creative society.
Therefore, we should organize such platforms and offer our own options for overcoming the crisis. There is no other way for us, you see, otherwise all of us will die.
I think we would have a lot of people agree that pure consumerism with no concern for social and environmental and other impacts is not the way forward, and it's all about people.
Already today, we need to stop all projects aimed at destruction, war, killing people, and strengthening the consumerist format of society. It is necessary to unleash science and focus all of humanity's scientific potential on solving the problem of confronting the climate crisis and the survival of mankind in adverse conditions. This is our common interest that unites all people.
We need to build a world that everyone, no matter where you live, it is an equitable, bright future for yourself and family. We need to invest in people, place, and planet. And I mean, if our leaders don't want to act, we need to stay leaders.
That's absolutely right.
And we need to demand that, and we can make that happen.
That's absolutely. As you notice our little symbol, I would like to give this to you as a present.
And I'm going to wear it on
Please.
And proudly.
Don't spike yourself. Thank you
so much.
It symbolizes the 8 foundations and obviously the clockwise motion for the future.
When people
Thank you
ask
for your
me,
time.
I will tell them what it's doing.
Thank
fighting
you
for it.
Yes. Thank you.
Thanks.
Cheers.
On May 7, 2022, the Creative Society platform will host a large-scale and unprecedented event, the International Online Forum Global Crisis, We Are People, We Want to Live, which will consider practical solutions to overcome all the crises by building the creative society.
You can learn more about the forum and the Creative Society at creativesociety.com. Thank you for being with us today, and see you soon on the Creative Society channel.